Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to puff him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Garden Report. Just about a week from the NBA draft, Wednesday, next week. First round starts. I hate that this thing's 2 days, Matt. I just remembered that the other day.
Why stretch it out?
End of the first day is when the Celtics are going to pick at 28, much like last year when they picked 30th and picked Baylor Shireman, who I believe when you were on here last year, we kicked his name around a little bit. He was in that range, Matt, and ended up being a decent pick for Boston by the end of the year. This class a little trickier. I'm looking at the workout list of guys that they've had in the building. Many of them went back to school. Not many of them are quite in their range. A few guys may be higher in the first round. So some reporting that they could be looking to move up here. But at least at the start of the show here, we'll look at some guys who are in the range that they're in right now, which is 28 in that first round. And then very early in the second round, 32, they got that pick from trading back a million times in that 2023 draft where they got Jordan Walsh there. So good to have you back, Matt. You do a bunch of draft work every year out here, and great resource for everybody. You can follow him at DraftPOW on Twitter. And check out their work over on Swish Theory. Welcome on the Garden Report again, man.
Yeah, thanks so much. Nice to be back here. The most fun time of the year for us draft heads.
Yeah, and so I'm behind. I don't know a ton about this class. I've started to read up on some of the names we're going to talk about here. And I guess we'll start with the guy I was looking at most today, and I've even gotten on the phone and talked to some people about him a little bit because I think it is a position in need for the Celtics. I think it is an area where they could lose potentially multiple players this offseason is at center. And Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton, 7'1", rim-running center, one of the best defensive shot blocking prospects in this class. Looks like a guy when you go across mock drafts that could be there at 28 or even potentially 32 if he slips into the second round. What do you got on Kalkbrenner?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, he's a really good player. He's 23 years old already, so you're not taking as much of like that big upside swing. But I mean, at 32 or 28 even, I think that'd be great value. I have him in my top 20 pretty firmly. But yeah, he's a really good rim runner. Like you said, he was 86th percentile efficiency or better on all of post-ups, cuts, roll man possessions, putbacks, spot-ups, and transition. So he's just a really good play finisher prospect, like already that you can kind of rely on. You can even stretch the floor a little bit. He'll probably be around like 33, 34% from three. So you can take it as like a last resort. But yeah, really good touch, 71% on layups, most dunks in the NCAA by 26. He had almost as much as Zach Edey had last year. Really good drop defender. He was actually top 20 in the country in block rate. At, I think he's like around 7% block rate, but he only fouled once, 1.7 times every 40 minutes, which is just like an absurdly low number. So he's just like really good at contesting at the rim, really good drop technique. No one in the top 500 for blocks had a foul rate that low. So he's just like a really smart defender that you can trust like day one out there. Will also be a really good lob threat. He's especially good lob threat in like transition if you push on the ball. He's really good at like catching from all kinds of angles with that 7'6" wingspan. But yeah, I think he'd be quite the steal that late.
He had 19, 8, and almost 3 blocks a game last year. Shot 34% from 3 too, and he didn't take a ton of them, but it's there. You know, a couple catch and shoots, mostly pick and pop. He'll even just, if he's holding the ball in the, above the break there, just pull up if no one's around him. So got a little more comfortable with that as time went on. You mentioned he's a little older. Those guys usually do slide, especially guys who played 5 years. That's what led Shireman to, and his former teammate, of course, at Creighton to Boston last year. So it'd be interesting to see those two reunited on the Celtics there. And there's a need here. I see the Cornet comparison thrown around a lot, and I guess I see it a little bit here. Some of the rim running stuff that he's already adept at here that took some adjusting for Cornet after he was more of a pick and pop big coming in the league. So I think there's a few differences there too. I feel like Kalkbrenner, just from what I see, is already a little bit stronger coming in to the league, and definitely plays with some more power here. And even, you mentioned like his ability to get downhill a little bit too is interesting. So I think there's definitely some similarities there in terms of how the Celtics can mold him. And I guess the question I have is whether he'd be one of those passing, high post, handoff kind of bigs who can facilitate a little bit. Because that's obviously, I think, the best part of Cornette's game is the screens he sets, the passes he makes. And he's certainly come a long way with his rebounding too, which I guess is probably one of Kalkbrenner's weaknesses.
Yeah, he definitely like over focuses on boxing out sometimes. So I don't know if that like his defensive rebound rate is not great, but I do think he still contributes very like positively in that. Like he won't hurt you necessarily as a rebounder. But yeah, I mean, I think the main difference is just like his touch around the basket. You can get real points there. Like he shot, like he'll shoot over 60% from the field from two, like pretty handily. Just I could see him like just like as a cutter too. He's like really savvy when to like hit spots. But yeah, as a post hub, I don't know if I would expect anything like that. Or like his reads have definitely improved over the years, but I wouldn't say he's like the highest field passer necessarily. But he can set screens. He's like good at flipping his hips. He's just like a big guy. All that with his rim gravity, I think, makes him still like a pretty compelling offensive option.
Yeah, and so we'll see how the three develops. So the free throw is 70 for his career, which isn't too bad, and it's improved, coming from the first year, second year on there, down to 68 this year. So mostly floating around that 70 mark there. Not great, not horrible. And then talking to some of the people who've worked with him, they want him to get mean. Like they want him to be a more aggressive player, have some more nastiness to him, especially as a shot blocker, especially as one of those guys who you want to see be an intimidating presence in there. So we'll see how that translates, how that develops for him out there too. But this is definitely a guy I'd be interested in getting in the Boston system and having him learn the stuff that they want him to do and improve. And, I think when you look at 23-year-olds, a lot of people think that they can't improve much on where they are right now. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think guys can adapt. I think guys can grow and, even become more physically adept to what the NBA is doing. What's your biggest concern with him, you would say? Are there any worries about him translating to the league?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's the physicality. I have him like 15, so I'm like pretty confident on him translating. Okay. I think he'll be. It's the physicality, but I think he's improved there a lot. It's the passing, but he's improved there a lot. I think I think he's a really good player. I don't have that big of like qualms with him really.
The highest I saw him going in mocks, I believe, was 23 to Indy. Although I've heard Atlanta worked him out and liked him at 22. They're obviously losing Clint Capella, so definitely a chance he could go in that mid to high first round there if some team likes him. I know he just did a bunch of West Coast workouts as well. So we'll see what happens there. 28 definitely in play. The Celtics want to take a center option there, and there's quite a few in this class. I've read about a couple of different guys that would be interesting, but I do want to move on to your other guy that you mentioned here, and that is Drake Powell from UNC. 3-and-D prospect, a freshman, so on the younger side. I think he's going to turn 20 this fall. So didn't shoot great. Didn't do much offensively in general for North Carolina, but defensively, he's one of the stronger perimeter guys in this class from what I've read.
Yeah, what you described is accurate. He's basically a point of attack defender, maybe the best point of attack prospect in the class. His athletic measurables were like 95th percentile plus for like a shooting guard. He had the best max vertical in the class. He was top 10 in all of lane agility, 3/4 sprint, and whatever I forgot the third test is. But anyways, crazy athlete. Can shoot a little bit. He was like an 82% shooter in high school from the line. Only I think like high 60s in college on like really low attempts. He had both like extremely low usage. He had like the 6th lowest usage rate in all of the NCAA high majors or something like that.
And that's concerning.
Yeah, it's a big concern more for like kind of like a wiring perspective of like, oh, can he go get his own? Like, is he going to test the defense at all? But I really like his pull-up jumper is like really technically like it looks pretty smooth. It's like advanced a lot in efficiency over the years. Like he can pull out like a stutter rip and get to the mid range and like hit like you can't contest too hard on him. He knows how to punish you. Like he can dunk pretty easily. But yeah, you're investing in the point of attack defense, like at his size, at 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, he can be like a real wrecking ball out there. But yeah, you need to be patient with the offense for sure. And I'm not really sure what the upside is, but that late, it's worth the swing.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you get a bankable skill there with the defense. And I do think there's room for specialists on the wing on this roster. They haven't really had many of those guys. It's been Tatum, Brown, Hauser effectively, and Hauser's come a long way defensively himself. But they really haven't had a defensive specialist coming off the bench as a wing in quite a few years. So they could try to work with that offense. It's tough. You don't want to play guys who are going to get ignored, and that's certainly in play for him here. But if the 3 at the very least comes along, you can probably work with that. He doesn't have to do a ton of other stuff, especially on this roster. So whether that's 28 or even 32, I know one of the mocks here I'm looking at has him 32. I think that's where you think about a guy like that, and maybe he's on a 2-way if he is 32. I don't know. But where did you have him ranked overall in your class, or your rankings rather?
I have him, I think, early 20s. So
Okay.
Again, it's like he's a pretty raw prospect. Yeah, I have him 22. But I can't ignore those signs of him. Like the flashes really are there on offense. Like he has some like really nice reads when he gets his number called. He's just like super hesitant. He had a good like assist to turnover ratio, so he's not like some low feel offensive player. I think he's like a very intriguing like risk reward pick that late, where you kind of have the point of attack defense will be pretty bankable. Maybe there's something else, and like I think the 3s might be pretty reliable too.
Yeah, I'm not doing backflips over him. I don't love the guys with that many limitations offensively, but definitely some stuff to like there for sure when you look into them. And we'll move on here to some of the other guys. Noah Penda, I think, an interesting guy, especially because Joe Mazzulla, who's just over in France, watching some games over there in Paris. I don't know if Penda's still playing over there, but I think he was in Le Mans, which is where I believe he played. So this is an interesting guy. Definitely more of a higher regarded, higher ranked prospect, I'd say, when you look at some of the rankings here than maybe they're going to be picking, especially as he seems to be gaining some momentum here. But what are your thoughts on him? Younger prospect, obviously a guy earlier in his development. Could he be a fit in Boston?
Yeah. So yeah, I see him right now. Consensus is around 29. So you never know.
Perfect.
I think there's a chance he's there. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a good like mentality guy fit for Boston. He's just like super tough nosed. Another like defensive specialist he's my favorite defender in the class. Super like physical. His like athletic testing was like okay, like pretty lackluster, but on tape he looks pretty like he's super strong. He stays with ball handlers pretty well. His just like defensive technique is like really strong, and like his hands, like he was near the top of the league for both steals and blocks as like 19-year-old in the French league. So I'm really confident in the defense. I think he has maybe the best all defense odds in the class, just because like Cooper Flag will probably be playing too much offense to win those. But he's very limited on offense, I will say. Like his passing is really strong. He's got, again, just like great feel. So he's a good connective passer, but he cannot shoot right now. His like shot is like, it's improved a lot over the years. It was like 25%. Now he had some moments of looking like he had some strong stretches shooting from downtown. But his like rim finishing is really bad. You kind of need him at like, was he 6'6", 6'7"? You would hope that the rim finishing would be stronger. But yeah, 6'7", 2'5", and without shoes, and still like finishes just above 50% of the rim. So those are some like concerning touch indicators combined with his free throw percentage. So that's why I only have him like around number 20 in the class, because like I'm really that high on the defense. But it's, if there's one player that can be left completely wide open on offense, it can completely like shut down the whole flow. So I don't know. I mean, at 28 to 32, that's, I think, a really good value still, though.
Yeah, for sure. Depending on whether they want to go with a longer term option there, is he probably going to come over, or would he be a stash guy potentially?
He's coming over for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything about stashing yet.
So what would the role be offensively eventually for him if he's going to develop one here? And what position is he even?
Yeah, he's a small forward or a small ball power forward. I mean, he's like strong enough and a good enough shot blocker that you can get away with really small ball 5 if you really wanted to. But he'll be mostly a spot up shooter who can do like dribble handoffs, like the basic moving the ball type things. He can handle a little bit. But you're gonna need him to spot up and cut. So it's like pretty streamlined role, and he's super coordinated. So like maybe the shot develops better than like some other guys with his percentages. But it's a risky play on offense.
Yeah, so he plays for Le Mans in France, and it did look like Joe Mazzulla was over there the other day in Paris. So I don't know if he was getting a look at him, or maybe they were meeting with him, or whatever it might be. But Mazzulla's been over in Europe and looking at a couple of different guys over there, it appears. So we definitely keep an eye out for Penda, who I don't think they've officially worked out, but it's definitely going to be in that range, as you mentioned there, Matt. And I want to give a quick shout out before we continue here to our sponsor, Prize Picks, because even though we're getting in the draft talk right now and the off season's right around the corner, potentially one game away, there's still some championship action left. And the best way to enjoy it is over on Prize Picks with their daily fantasy, where you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Do you know, ball? There's one series left in the playoffs, and the championship is officially on the line. That means time's running out for you to put your final takes to the test on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. This year's playoffs are heading down to crowning a first-time champ for the first time in more than 50 years, so don't miss out your last chance to get in on history with Prize Picks, the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states. You can mix and match player projections from different sports. We get some hockey going on tonight as well. Combine your favorite basketball players with baseball, esports, and much more. And they invented the Flex Play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect, especially on Flex Fridays. And today is Taco Tuesday, where they have player projections up to 25% for more value in your lineup. So go over there and check out what they got going on. I love going more with Shea's points. Right now, though, Halliburton's got me nervous with the injury here. We'll see if he's even available tomorrow. So I'd probably hold out there and look at some other Pacers like TJ McConnell. So use the code CLNS, play $5, get 50 instantly over on Prize Picks after you download the app today. That's CLNS to get 50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So let's move on, Matt, here to some other prospects to keep an eye on for the Celtics this week. And I'll jump to another guy I read about, Adu Thera from Arkansas, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, he's great. Another player I'm pretty high on, I will say, just the first round in general, especially the 16 to 23 range. So I think a lot of these guys are pretty interesting.
This draft could be underrated?
I think he's very underrated, Bob. He is maybe the best athlete in the class. He has recorded 41-inch vertical, but there's rumors that as high as 46. But he's super physical.
46 is crazy.
Yeah, there's his mom tweeted it or something. Hasn't been officially recorded. Because he sat out of the combine athletic testing, but he has some so he's 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. Really great athlete, has really good driving upside too. He had 100 drives on the season, and he had a 65 free throw rate on those drives, which is really, really high. So he's a lot to contain getting downhill. Another guy with kind of really good defensive upside, with mixed dribble pass shoot upside on the other side of the court, where his like 3-point shot has not come along for like a wing. Obviously not ideal. His free throw percentage is like not the best. But he is really good in the mid range. His like floater is really on point. He has like shot like over 40% in the mid range. So he does have a counter to the rim attacking. But what I really like about him is with his vertical and his like sense of timing. He's like a really quick leaper too. And that, in addition to his strength, led to him playing the 4 a lot of times for Arkansas, where he like really thrived defensively and provide some help side rim protection. So he could be like very like a small ball 4 at 6'6", who then his like shooting limitations aren't as much of a concern.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's such a good athlete. He kind of has some like Thompson twin similarities, not the same level of passer, but he's super fluid with the ball, or like super powerful with the ball downhill. Got some interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah, definitely some disruptiveness at defensive game too. 1.6 steals per game, a lot of breakout dunks off those, as well as 0.7 blocks per game, which is pretty good for that position as well. So he can make a lot of stuff happen out there. The rebounding seems strong, but the shot gone down a little bit each year and hit 25% from 3 last year. Didn't take many either. So when you're talking 3 and D potentially being a role for a lot of these guys, the 3 being missing is tough sometimes. Yeah. And, with a guy like this, I know there's more explosion here, certainly. And, maybe some of the other guys who are in that position who aren't as, offensively gifted. I think back to Semi Ojeleye, who is just an awesome defensive prospect. Maybe not as much of a disruptor as Theo is here, but it was always about whether that 3 was going to go in or not. And it often didn't for him. And he didn't have too much other stuff to lean on here. But the driving potentially way he could get involved and maybe playing some bigger positions as well, maybe takes away from the 3-point limitation.
Yeah, the comparison I've seen is like, what if Peyton Watson had a little bit better touch and a little better like shoot skills, and that would be like a pretty damn valuable player, I think, especially play off of other creator prospects, because like he was creating a lot of this stuff from the perimeter with the ball, and like you really using like change of pace to get to the rim where he can then like just use his vertical. So he's not as simple as like a 3-and-D guy who can't shoot the 3. There is, and especially in transition, he would be like complete monster.
And 6.5 free throws per game. That's serious.
Yeah, he's like really good at grifter. I was looking at like where that translates, and as long as you have like around 65 free throw rate is like kind of the threshold for that, is like very high likelihood of translating to the pros. So like he's a lot to contain on both sides.
Yeah, so we'll look at some other guys here who I'm not as familiar with, but so far some interesting guys to look at the late portion of this first round here. And I haven't heard a ton of hype about like 28 and 32 being all that exciting in terms of prospects here, but you never know who could slide and who they really like at that spot. Like I know last year with Shireman, they potentially could have traded back into the second round like they've done at different points here, and they really wanted him. And so when he ends up there at 30, they take him. I even heard recently that they made a promise to him last year at that 30 spot. So they followed through with that. And again, solid rookie year for him at the 30 spot, all things considered. So let's move on to Ben Sarif.
Yeah. Speaking again on Shireman, one last note is, I saw like Liam McNeely mocked to you guys by someone, which like made no sense if you have Shireman already there, in my opinion. But yeah, moving on to Ben Saraf. Yeah, he's a big guard. He measured in at 6'6" the combine.
Playing in Germany?
He was playing in Germany, yeah. Same team as Noah Songe on ULM. For the German league there, which is like a bit of a down year, but he was still like a starter on one of the best teams in the league, who like they won a lot when him and Noah were both playing like pretty significant minutes. He looks again like a guard who's really good getting downhill with a questionable 3-point shot, which is true, and why I only have him ranked like top 40 instead of like top 20, given the rest of the skill set. But he's a pretty physical player. Like he's a good defender. I think kind of underrated as a defender. but kind of a pull-up threat in the mid-range, a good like pick and roll operator, really smart passer, and like good like prober with the ball. Like one of I think the best passers in the class. I would really like to pair him with someone with Pritchard, just because he like even blocks a few shots here and there, like gets some good contested dunks. So he's someone that can kind of pressure the rim, while the 3-point shot is kind of like a theme here. A lot of like iffy shooters. The 3-point shot, if that doesn't come along, he's been at least a really good pull-up 2-point shooter, so he can still punish like the unders and pick and roll some. But yeah, if the 3-point shot comes around, then he can be like, I think, a legitimate rotation guy. And he has some touch indicators. That's, if I were more comfortable in there, I'd say he's like a pretty all-around player who can like rebound a little bit, defend a little bit, dribble, pass, shoot. But again, the 3-point shot's a big question mark.
Yeah, and guard's another need for them. Potentially moving on from Drew Holiday here. They got Pritchard, Derek White. We'll see with maybe more aggressive moves that the Celtics can end up making this offseason. But even if they just move off one guy like Holiday, you got to start to backload some prospects in there and guys who can develop into eventually playing for them. I don't think, even if they keep J.D. Davison around somehow, that's going anywhere at this point. But we'll see. I want to move on next to Jameer Watkins.
Yeah, he's a Florida State guy. He kind of flew under the radar this year just because Florida State was like so unimpressive, but he took on like such a huge burden for them on both sides just by necessity. That kind of like the exact opposite of Drake Powell. He had like huge offensive usage and defensive usage at the same time. Also an older guy, I think he's 23. But another just like a good culture fit. I think he's like really tough nosed, really good wing defender who can create some events. On our like Swish Theory big board, I was grading all the prospects by 6 categories, and he was, I think, one of the few up there with like Cooper Flagg and a few others, like 3 or 4 others who graded at least rotation level or better for every single like category, like contribution type. So he's like a pretty well-rounded player. Again, mixed 3-point shooter. More likely you're going to get like a 33% 3-point shooter than a 38% 3-point shooter. But a smart passer, just a guy you can kind of like trust to be a minutes eater, I think, during the regular season.
And where is he marked for you? Is he more of a second round guy?
He's more of a second round guy. But yeah, I have him 37, but if like you were going to reach on someone, he's a pretty proven commodity. As like, I think he has really got good chance of being like 8th to 10th rotation player. So if you're like really trying to shore that up instead of taking a big swing, I think he's a good safe option.
Another 5-year guys. So many of them now. It's crazy. 18 points a game this year, 32 from 3, 42 from the field for him. So that's another potential option for them in that second round area there. Some of the other guys I looked at here, and we'll move on to some potential trade-up options for them. At the big spot as well, Maxime Reynaud from Stanford. Where do you have him ranked? Is he a guy that could potentially be there at 28 as well?
Yeah, I've heard like a really wide range on him. Some people like think he's like a lotto-level prospect. I'm like way more pessimistic just because his defense, I think. Oh, did I lose you? Yep. His defense, I think, is like just sub NBA level. He can't move in space at all. I think the idea is kind of like Quinton Post on Golden State Warriors, but I don't even know if he can move that well as a defender.
So you're higher on Kalkbrenner than him?
Way higher, yeah. I think he's way more ready to be like Kalkbrenner is like pretty solid on both sides. I think like Reno also like has a pretty slow wind up, so I don't know. Like the 3-point shot, I think, is even pretty questionable. Even like people are banking on that maybe more than they should. Makes some interesting passes. Like he seems like a decently high field guy, but I think just like pretty big athletic limitations. And like he scored a lot in college by just like moving, like taking the ball in the post for like 8 seconds, and like the just type of stuff that will not be available to him at the next level.
Right, you want guys who are rolling more. You want guys who can do more things with the ball. Like even a Danny Wolf can least face up and make passes and facilitate for you a little bit out of that spot, along with a little bit of a jump shot from what it looked like there. So he seems like he's more on the higher end among the centers, though, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, he'll go pretty high up there. Yeah, I don't really see it personally, but I think he'll most likely go in the first round. I think based on like the chatter, he's had some good momentum. It seems like.
All right, let's get into some trade-up options here, but first, going to give a quick shout-out to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, as always, if you're looking to fill jobs for your small business, they're the place to go to. And as a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of clocking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. And that hiring partner is LinkedIn Jobs. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. They make it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. Post your job, their new feature, can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job to the right people with deep candidate insights. And you can either post it for free or pay to promote. And promoted jobs get 3 times more the qualified applicants. And at the end of the day, the most important thing to your small business is the quality of candidates. And with LinkedIn, you can feel confident you're getting the best. According to LinkedIn data, 72% of small businesses using LinkedIn say that it helped them find high quality candidates. You can even add a hiring frame to your profile picture. You get twice the qualified candidates. To find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today, find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/garden. That's GARDEN. LinkedIn.com/garden to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So there's some reporting out there, Matt, that the Celtics could be looking to move up. Now, how high is that? I have no idea. I think with a massive swing, like even a Jaylen Brown level play, maybe you're moving up into the lottery, to a number 10 with Houston, or maybe even number 14 or number 2 with San Antonio potentially if they go that direction. So I'm not picturing that at the moment. Maybe it's a small move up into the higher 20s with Atlanta there. I know I've looked at Celtics maybe moving Sam Hauser there. Maybe the middle of the first round is more attainable by combining 28 and 32, though I don't know how powerful of a trade thing that is for, moving into the higher portions of the first round here. But you're looking at a couple guys as trade-up options for them, including Sorber, right? Thomas Sorber from Georgetown.
Yeah, he unfortunately had his season cut short with a foot injury. I think it was an ankle injury that has some people a little worried about just as like a big with the foot injury. So I think there's a chance he could slide a little bit too. But he reminds me a lot of like Al Horford, just like in his mentality and like how strong his technique and feel for the game is at like such a young age. He's just a really good post defender in a lot of ways.
7'6" wingspan too.
Yeah, one of the biggest like plus wingspans compared to height. So that like he's not the best vertical athlete, but he's still a really good shot blocker. But I got to see him up close live this year, and he's one of those players that's like almost borderline dirty how like effective they are, just like hitting the right pressure points on like the post defender that they're, or like boxing out. They know just right how to like put the pressure on, or like he basically maximizes all of his physicality. I think he's listed at like 260, but he really plays like even stronger than that. So he's someone you can really trust to switch down the low post and also can move his feet a little bit on the perimeter. I think of all the players in this class that can't shoot currently, he's the one that I'm highest on actually shooting on at some point, despite shooting like 17% from 3. His shooting form looks really smooth, right? And like his energy transfer is really good. I think he just like kind of hangs it, like has a little too long of a posture like through the release point. I think you can like speed it up a little bit and smooth it out. But he's a really smart passer too. Just really productive for age. I think he's he could fall into like the mid first, or maybe even like as far as 20. So it might be a little more attainable of a trade up option. But yeah, just like a really smart player, not the greatest athlete, but crazy wingspan. Can defend right away, maybe can shoot.
Yeah, seeing mid-teens for him on a couple early 20s. Where do you have him ranked again?
He is my number 10 prospect right now, so I'm super optimistic.
Wow.
On him. Yeah.
And then another center, Moloch there from Duke, who I got to see with the international team there last summer, and really impressive stuff from them. With the South Sudan, he was able to play for them right before heading over to Duke. So what they did, pushing the U.S., was really impressive in that exhibition, and they were pretty competitive in the group stage as well. How did that freshman season go for him at Duke?
Yeah, it went pretty well overall. I mean, he finished the season with one of the highest true shooting percentages in NCAA history and one of the best lob threats the NCAA has ever seen. I don't think that's hyperbole, just partially was how good of lob threat passing they had between Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple there. But he is just his timing as a lob threat is really impeccable for his age and somebody who only started playing basketball, I think 5 or 6 years ago. Even when he doesn't dunk, his touch in the post is really strong. He's a good free throw shooter as well. He took more He didn't hardly take any threes at Duke, but he showed some promise as a shooter in the BAL, the Africa League, previously, where he kind of ended up playing a pretty important role, even though it's a lot lower competition level. He played a pretty significant role for his team there while taking a lot of threes. So there's a willingness there to shoot.
He's not even 19 yet.
Yeah, he's one of the youngest in the class. And yeah, another honest Celtics comparison that came up watching his BAL tape is his smoothness, shooting fadeaway sometimes, working in the post, and even shot all movement sometimes did look. I mean, how many 7-2 guys are that smooth shooting threes? Some of it did look Porzingis-esque.
Wow.
Even though he's not, he's way he's new to the game. He's not the same dribble threat, and Porzingis was taking way more difficult looks off movement. But he's a smooth shoot. I think I'd trust him to shoot threes more than most other people who shot below 20% from three. What was he, high 70s from the line too? And the form looks pretty smooth to me. Another lots of will they shoot bets, but he's a strong defensive prospect too. I think there was a lot of concern that he doesn't rebound very much. He had 0 rebounds against Houston in the Final Four game.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which got a lot of criticism for that, which is fair. He's not a great go up and get it guy. He's more of a box out first player. But I think some of it's due to limited reps, to him being relatively new to the sport, just getting used to the almost pattern recognition issues of oh, here's when I can test, here's what I don't. But he still was a pretty effective presence despite of that. And just watching the tape from where he was 2 years ago or even 1 year ago, it's been such a remarkable improvement technique wise.
Yeah, and to be doing all this so early in his development, looks like he started playing at 13. So 4, 5, 6 years of playing basketball, and to be competing with the U.S. at that level, and then obviously in one of the biggest stages in college basketball, says a lot. Now, are you using a top 10, 15 pick on a guy like that with some unproven skills, particularly on offense, and then we'll see how the defense translates there? Is he, defensively, what do you see his role being? Is it at the 5?
Yeah, I think he's a 5 for sure. I mean, you would prefer to have some good rebounding around him, some insulation. But I don't think he'll be some major negative defensive impact. Again, he is really good at finding his man, boxing out still. But I mean, I think his drop technique has improved a lot. There's still some room to improve there as far as, again, just knowing when to contest and when to not. But Duke had him on the perimeter switching a lot of times, and he acquitted himself pretty admirably there, I think. So he's not super limited as, I think, a defensive prospect. I think he has definitely some room to go as far as, again, that pattern recognition thing of oh, okay,
Oh. No, let's see. Do we have Matt here? Looks like we lost him. Well, that was going to be our last prospect we talked about anyway here. We'll see if Matt pops back in, but appreciate the insight from him. And we are about to get into heavy draft prep here over the next week. We'll have some individual videos coming out here on CLNS Media, as well as some great guests to come on. And Matt, obviously a great evaluator of the draft here, had him on last year talking about it. And you can go follow him at Draft POW, Matt Powers, over on Twitter. And check out him and his team's great work over on Swish Theory. And yeah, we lost him here. So we'll call it a show there. Check out some of these prospects and their different potentials here. And Matt did just pop right back in. All good, man. We were just about to wrap it up. Any final words on come on Malak there?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a really worthwhile move-up target. I mean, I think there is some, like, rumors of the Raptors trading out their spot, which could be, like, a prime time to swing for him if they can somehow get there. But if you're going to make a big swing, take it with somebody as much upside as he has at his age, who's already kind of proven that they can contribute at a high level even with the rough edges. So, yeah, I'm definitely fall for the appeal of Malawach near the top of the draft even.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Some of the movement that's possible up there. And I know Toronto, there's definitely some aggressiveness floating out of them. They have RJ Barrett that they could trade, as well as Grady Dick and Emmanuel Quickly and some other guys there that they could use to get in on Durant potentially. If it's going to be Phoenix moving up to that spot, or I won't rule them out for a Jaylen Brown pursuit either. If they can make a really aggressive offer, I think everybody on the Celtics roster is in play. And number 9 is not a slam dunk spot to move up to in a deal like that, but it is pretty good value coming back along with maybe some future picks for one of those guys. I'd have to really think it through, and they'd have to have someone they really like in one of those top 10 spots as well. So that would obviously be the craziest thing that could happen over the next week, or just a smaller move up, maybe a salary dump or two, is expected definitely from them this off season. So that would be on the less crazy side of things, but something's definitely going to happen here with the Celtics leading up to draft night. And as of now, they're picking at 28 and 32. Gave a shout out to all your work, Matt. Anything else you want to plug that you got out there right now?
Yeah, we have new Swish Theory board. We had kind of the initial drop last week, and we will have another one before the draft. So just check it out at theswishtheory.com. Have some fun, like, interactive tools to play with there.
All right. Awesome, man. I appreciate you stopping by and giving us some insight here. That is it for us today, but we will have shows throughout the week, including Drew Peterson, who's going to be jumping on from the Boston Celtics this week. We're going to record with him tomorrow, so that'll probably be out later in the week, and we'll have something live tomorrow for you as well here on the Garden Report. Shout out to our sponsors here, Prize Picks. Go over there, use the code CLNS to get 50 when you play 5, as well as LinkedIn. Use the code use the URL linkedin.com/garden to go over there and post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And stay tuned to our YouTube channel, CLNS Media and Celtics All Access, for some more draft profiles as well as potential moves that the Celtics can make this off season. For Matt Powers, I am Bobby Manning, and this has been a Tuesday Garden Report. We'll talk to you soon.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way?
Let's fly out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke an hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke